UK.
We are following breaking news at this hour. I wanted to share this social media post from the Associated Press saying that President Joe Biden has, for the first time, authorized Ukraine to use U.S.-supplied long-range missiles for strikes inside Russia. That is according to Associated Press sources. And just a little bit more about this, I did want to share that with you as you're taking a look at some file video of the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine. President Biden, according to people familiar with this matter, has for the very first time authorized the use of U.S.-supplied long-range missiles by Ukraine to strike inside Russia. The decision is a major U.S. policy shift and comes as Biden is about to leave office, and President-elect Trump has pledged to limit American support for Ukraine and end the war as soon as possible. The weapons are likely to be used in response to North Korea's decision to send thousands of troops to Russia in support of Russian President Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine. That is according to one of the people. Now, the people who shared this information with the Associated Press were not authorized to discuss the matter publicly and spoke on the condition of anonymity. But I did want to share that breaking news, as we have learned that President Biden has, for the very first time, authorized the use of U.S.-supplied long-range missiles by Ukraine to strike inside Russia. I also wanted to share this live look with you. This is a live look at a podium in Brazil. We are expecting President Biden to be delivering remarks in just about 10 minutes or so. It is unclear specifically what he will be speaking of, but his remarks come ahead of the G20 summit. And now, as we have learned, according to AP sources, President Biden has authorized the use of U.S. long-range missiles by Ukraine inside Russia. It is unclear whether he will discuss this news.
We have never been closer to World War III than we are today under Joe Biden. A global conflict between nuclear-armed powers would mean death and destruction on a scale unmatched in human history. It would be nuclear Armageddon. Nothing is more important than avoiding that nightmare. We will avoid it, but we need new leadership. Every day this proxy battle in Ukraine continues, we risk global war. We must be absolutely clear that our objective is to immediately have a total cessation of hostilities. All shooting has to stop. This is the central issue. We need peace without delay. In addition, there must also be a complete commitment to dismantling the entire globalist neocon establishment that is perpetually dragging us into endless wars, pretending to fight for freedom and democracy abroad, while they turn us into a third world country and a third world dictatorship right here at home. The State Department, the defense bureaucracy, the intelligence services, and all of the rest need to be completely overhauled and reconstituted to fire the deep staters and put America first. We have to put America first.
Video from
a previous situation, not the one that we are about to discuss here, but we did just learn from the Associated Press that Ukraine fired 6 U.S.-made missiles here at Russia's Bryansk region. Russia's defense ministry just releasing that information days after U.S. President Biden eased those restrictions on Ukrainian use of American-made weapons in the war that is now marking its 1,000th day. Ukraine claimed it hit a military weapons depot there in the middle of the night, though it didn't specify what weapons it actually used. The Ukrainian General Staff said that multiple explosions and detonations were heard in that targeted area. And in a statement carried by Russian news agencies, the Russian Defense Ministry said the military shot down 5 of those Army tactical missile systems and damaged another. The fragments fell on the territory of an unspecified military facility. That's again according to Russia's ministry. The falling debris sparking a fire, but did not inflict any danger or any casualties. Neither side's claims could be independently verified by the Associated Press. The announcement came after Biden did authorize Ukraine to use those U.S.-supplied missiles to strike deeper inside Russia, easing limitations on the longer-range weapons after Russia deployed thousands of North Korean troops in the conflict. Earlier on Tuesday, Ukrainian officials reported a 3rd Russian strike in 3 days on a civilian residential area in Ukraine that killed at least 12 people. That includes a child. The strike by a drone in a region there late Monday hit a dormitory of an educational facility and wounded 11 other people, including 2 children, adding that more people could be trapped under the rubble. Ukrainian civilians have repeatedly been clobbered by Russian drones and missiles during this war, while on the battlefield it's under severe Russian pressure at places on about a 600-mile front line where its army is stretched thin against a bigger adversary. So again, we have now learned from the Russian ministry that Ukraine did fire 6 of those U.S.-made long-range missiles in Russia, and that's again according to the defense ministry. So as we get more information on that, we'll make sure to bring it to you right here on Live Now from Fox. Also important to note that today does mark 1,000 days of war for Ukraine. We did hear from President Zelensky a bit earlier on in the morning, and we'll play that out for you again a bit later on today.
In the updated version of the document, aggression against Russia by any non-nuclear state, but with the support of a nuclear state, is proposed to be considered as their joint attack on Russia. Russia will also consider the possibility of using nuclear weapons when receiving reliable information about a massive launch of means of aerospace attack and their crossing of our state border. This includes strategic and tactical aircraft, as well as cruise missiles and drones, hypersonic and other delivery vehicles. Russia reserves the right to use nuclear weapons in case of aggression, including if the enemy, using conventional weapons, poses a critical threat.
It is important to note at this point that these are at this time proposals to amend Russia's nuclear weapons use doctrine. We heard from Vladimir Putin multiple scenarios in which the rules and regulations governing how Russia can use its nuclear weapons will change. The first scenario is if a non-nuclear power attacks Russia with conventional arms but poses a grave or critical threat to Russia's sovereignty, the Russian leadership will be able to use nuclear weapons to neutralize that threat. The second scenario and how things will change is if that non-nuclear power that is attacking Russia is aided, supplied, abetted by a nuclear power, then that nuclear power will be considered a party to this conflict. So a joint attack on Russia, which will mean Russia will be able to use nuclear weapons both on the non-nuclear power and the nuclear power that it will consider attacking it. Also, Russia will be able to use, preemptively perhaps use, nuclear weapons if there is verified information, proof that there is an ongoing attack on Russia using aerospace assets, or, for example, a mass launch of drones. Again, I must mention that these are, at this time, are proposals on how Russia's first use of nuclear weapons, its nuclear doctrine, will change. Nevertheless, this is a stark warning to the West, the latest in a slew of such. Previously, Vladimir Putin had come out and said that if advanced Western missiles with great ranges are supplied to Ukraine and used against Russia for strikes deep into Russian territory, then those countries, the United States perhaps, or Great Britain or France, which supply Ukraine with extended range missiles, that they will be complicit in an attack on Russia. Russia has brushed off their arguments that they merely hand these weapons over. Russia says it has evidence, and there is no way that Ukraine can plan, launch, and use these weapons without without NATO troops being involved, without NATO technical staff being involved, without NATO intelligence and NATO satellites being involved. But this comes at a dangerous time, at a time when many Western leaders are saying, ignore Putin and Russia's warnings, supply Ukraine with these missiles, and undoubtedly, even though they won't change anything, undoubtedly, Ukraine, they believe, will be able to resist Russia further. An argument that both military experts and the Russian government have said is in itself senseless.
And with North Korean troops believed poised for combat on Russia's side against Ukraine, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has called on his military to improve its fighting capabilities to prepare for war. North Korean media says Kim made the remarks at a meeting of battalion commanders in Pyongyang on Friday, calling for a limitless expansion of his nuclear program to counter the threat from the United States. He said threats from the US and its allies, including South Korea, have brought tensions to what he called the worst phase in history.
To this FAC this morning, brutal attacks yesterday by Russia on Ukraine, especially on civilian infrastructure. We can't see this happening any longer. We need to be aiding Ukraine even more intensely than we have been able to do thus far. At the same time, we will need to be upping up our sanctions pressure. And also, of course, looking at the peers that Russia is waging this war with, essentially with the help of Iran, now North Korea, which is the most serious escalation in this war in the past 2 years, and also with the help of China. We will have to see how we, as the European Union, also increase our pressure towards these countries. Essentially, what comes to China, it can't be business as usual. What comes to our trade, if China is in such an essential manner really hampering European security and security architecture.
Under these circumstances, I'd like to ask what is Russia's views of this Brazilian-Chinese initiative? It still makes sense for both countries to pursue a initiative in this sense. Thank you.
Well, on the decision of the United States to allow Ukrainian regime to use missiles up to 300 kilometers long, we read what the New York Times published about this. There are still no confirmation either from the White House or from the Pentagon, but we basically take our position on the basis of what is going on physically. And physically, ATACMS, apparently not as long as 300 kilometers, are being used, including this early morning in Russia, against the Bryansk Oblast of Russia, which is bordering Ukraine. And we proceed from the understanding that this is happening, and that any modification of ATACMS cannot be used without American experts and instructors, including satellite data, including programming and targeting. The President mentioned this several times. If long-range missiles are going to be applied from Ukraine into Russian territory, it will also mean that they are operated by American experts, military experts. And we will be taking this as a qualitatively new phase of the Western war against Russia, and we'll react accordingly.